Welcome to Healthcare Musings, a podcast dedicated to the discussion of critical care and healthcare in general. Here's your host, Dr. Hesham Hasabah.
Hey everybody, happy to have you with me. All right, this is something I found that was very interesting in the New York Times, and I wanted just to kind of weigh in about this. So I saw an article. It was published September 16th in the New York Times, and it says, can drinking alcohol prevent food poisoning? And that kind of piqued my interest. So there's this video on TikTok of a lady who cited this 2002 study, and I'll go over actually the study in a moment, that showed that if you drink alcoholic beverages with contaminated food, that it may be protective against food poisoning. And so what she did was she drank a cocktail and then said, and it was really difficult on her. And then she said, "Oh, don't worry, it's medicinal." And I was like, okay, that's weird. And so I read the article, and the article says there may be an ounce of truth to the notion that drinking alcohol around the time you eat contaminated food can reduce the chances of food poisoning, experts said. And then they cited these two studies. There's one published in 1992 and another published in 2002. So I read the studies. The one in 1992 was talking about a hepatitis A outbreak. And they found that for those people who drank alcohol, more highly concentrated alcohol, they had less of a risk of getting foodborne hepatitis A's, and this is the 1992 study. But the confidence interval was really wide. So the odds ratio is an odds ratio is your risk of getting the disease versus not getting the disease. It's I'm sure it's not the exactly accurate statistical definition, but if it's less than 1, then you have less of a chance, and if it's more than 1, you have a greater chance. And so the odds ratio of having a high alcohol concentration it was 0.4, meaning that if you consumed a high amount of alcohol, more than 10% alcohol, you had a 60% reduced chance of getting hepatitis A in the study. But the confidence interval was very wide, which means that the data is not very precise. And the confidence interval crosses 1. So when it crosses 1, the finding is not statistically significant. Now, they didn't mention anything about statistical significance in this study. And so that means that this could be by chance, okay? When they did multivariate analyses, a lot of the odds ratios, again, crossed 1, which means that the finding was not statistically significant. And what's key here is that they said, and what they said in the study, is that, where does it, I have to find it, that they didn't know the timing of when eating the food and drinking the alcohol. So this study is really, really poor evidence, right? So then the 2002 study also looked at a salmonella foodborne outbreak in Spain. And again, they found that people who drank more than 40 grams had a 46% reduced chance. And the confidence interval was less than 1. And so it was statistically significant. Okay? But then and so this study suggested maybe. The article in the New York Times starts asking experts from the University of Massachusetts and Amherst and Rutgers University about, is this plausible? And they say, well, yeah, because alcohol kills bacteria, right? And so you would think if you drink it, it kills the bacteria. But then they go into what alcohol can do to you, and it can weaken your immune system, and it can hurt the gut as well, and so that was good. That was good to show you that drinking alcohol is not necessarily the right way to prevent food poisoning. And even at the end of the 2002 study, they say at the end of the study, let me quote here. They say these findings do not mean that alcoholic beverages should be recommended as a protective factor against infectious foodborne diseases. I couldn't agree more. Alcohol, the truth is the truth. Alcohol is a known neurotoxin, is a known hepatotoxin, means that it damages the liver, it damages the nerves in the brain. It is a known cardiotoxin, it damages the heart. It is a known carcinogen, it causes cancer. That is known. That is fact, right? So drinking alcohol to try to prevent food poisoning is the absolute last thing you should do. And please don't do it. Now, what the article in the New York Times did not mention is stomach acid. And in addition to proper hand hygiene of those who prepare the food and those who eat the food and everything like that, there's no mention of stomach acid. Now, stomach acid is the first barrier to foodborne illness. In fact, it is the first line of defense against contaminated food. So, and what these studies don't say is, when did these people eat the contaminated food? They don't know. So let's step back here. Stomach acid is very low pH. The pH scale, the power of hydrogen scale, goes from 0 to 14. 0 is the most acidic. 14 is the least acidic and the most basic, right? And so a stomach, anything below 7 is acidic, anything above 7 is alkalotic, which is the opposite of acidic. Stomach acid, it has a pH of 1 to 3.5 approximately. That is super, super acidic, right? That will tear through anything, right? The reason why we don't have ulcers all the time is because the mucus that the stomach secretes protects the stomach lining against the stomach acid. When you take aspirin or ibuprofen, that prevents mucus production, and that's how the acid gets into the stomach lining and causes an ulcer. That was one of the causes. Okay? So if you eat something contaminated on an empty stomach, you have all that gastric acid that hasn't been consumed by anything. And so if you, in the one study, there was potato salad. So if you have potato salad that's contaminated by salmonella and you're hungry because you love potato salad and you want to eat it first, your stomach acid will likely kill all the salmonella, and you're less likely to get a foodborne illness. Rather than if you have a hamburger and then a hot dog and then you have the potato salad, you're more likely now, because the gastric acid has been consumed or taken by all that other food. Now the potato salad can potentially cause illness. And I don't know that you can say, oh, then if I have a cocktail after that's going to kill the salmonella on the potato salad and then prevent foodborne illness. Based on this data, I don't know that we can say that. And there was just no mention of stomach acid. People who take acid blockers because they've had ulcers in the past or whatever, they're at increased risk of foodborne illness because now they don't have the protective effect of the stomach acid. And so the number one barrier to infection is our stomach acid. And so if you're going to have something contaminated, you should have it on an empty stomach. The problem is you don't know, one, what's contaminated, and two, so you can't time it. And so that's obviously not a recommendation I can make. But the recommendation I can make is that drinking alcohol to try to prevent food poisoning is the absolute last thing you should do. It is a bad idea, and the evidence, quote unquote, behind it is super, super weak. Anyway, thanks so much for your time and attention. And until next time, this is Dr. Hashem Hasabala signing off on Healthcare Musings. Thank you for listening. Please follow and subscribe to the podcast at healthcaremusings.com, and don't forget to give us a 5-star review. Thank you so much.